It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hibb.
With the baby boomer generation reaching full retirement age, we're seeing more retirements in this country than ever before. As a record number of workers started to exit the workforce, many are wondering what the impact of that will be. Welcome into Watts on Wealth, our radio show. This wonderful Sunday morning, Barry Watts will fill us in on the trends facing many of our country's biggest industries during this major retirement period and how the trends will impact you and your retirement. Recently, we all had our show about you Gen Xers, so baby boomers, it's your time on the show today. And here is our 61-year-old sage, who is himself a baby boomer, Barry Watson. Hello, Barry.
Well, hello, Ralph, and thanks for saying howdy. It's good to be on the show with you this morning. I'm really excited about helping some people today. That's why we do this. And if you'll sit down with a cup of coffee and just listen and participate in your mind, I would say to everybody, it's going to be a really helpful day for you.
We hope that every Sunday morning, the number of our people, our fans listening to the radio show is growing and growing and going and going. And we're thrilled to have you with us, friends. Let's get going here. So, Barry, we've discussed how there seem to be more retirements than ever before in the USA these days. Do you have any exact numbers on that? Is it as staggering as it seems to be?
Well, a little over 4 million people are set to turn age 65 this year. Now, they won't necessarily all retire. Some of them have retired. Some of them will go ahead and work till full retirement age. By the way, I think that's a goofy thing because full retirement age is just a magic number that Social Security invented. And all it means is that's the age at which Social Security pays out its max to you without holding anything short. Because, you know, if you sign up for Social Security at 62, well, you don't get as much. You get about 30% less, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, there's 4 million people going through the process, and they'll do that every year through 2027, and those are baby boomers. And the baby boomers, you know, have changed the world. Baby boomers kind of changed everything economically in our country. And I think that baby boomers really are in the process of changing retirement, both what it looks like, but also how we handle it and the plans we develop for it. And the generations that come after will benefit from what we learned by doing a good job managing money and managing retirements for baby boomers.
As we're talking about this age bracket, Barry, which you are in, you know, looming in the windshield there straight ahead is Social Security. How long will it be around? The baby boomers, the ones that are exiting the workforce, coming into retirement, may have some totally new options available to them. And I have to imagine with so many retirees leaving the workforce, it's a major concern for social services that are used by retired folks, even if the trend is going to continue. Won't the strain on retirement services get only more severe in adding Social Security and its future into that mix?
Well, yes, and the strain is increasing on Social Security. I think it's a good time, by the way, to have gotten into the nursing home business because as these boomers age, they're going to age right into those nursing homes. It's going to be a tremendous strain on Medicare, so everything in the healthcare complex, but it's really a strain in lots of different places, and not only social services, but we're seeing an increased demand for retirement planning services, Ralph. More and more people than ever are taking advantage of what we do at WealthCare and are calling us and asking to sit down and have plans done for them. You know, it used to be many years ago, if you called our firm, you got me, nobody else. Well, today, you may get me on the telephone or sometimes you'll get me in a meeting, but it's just as likely that you might actually wind up sitting down with one of the advisors who's a part of our team because we've had to add advisors to handle the additional requests for appointments that we're getting from baby boomers. So the lesson in that is, hey, there's a lot of demand here, so you might want to start early. Get with it now, get after it, and plan to come see us. And the easiest way to do that is to just take out your handy phone. I know it's Sunday morning. If you called, nobody will answer. You could call and leave a message, and we'll call you back on Monday. But you could also just text the word visit, V-I-S-I-T, visit, and text that word to the number that Ralph's going to give you right here, and we'll be sure that we get you on the calendar and take care of you as soon as possible, ahead of all those other people who haven't done their planning yet.
Right you are, Sir Barry, and that is 417 all around the Ozarks in southwest Missouri. You like Missouri or Missouri, Barry?
Missouri. John Ashcroft and I are right. We both say it's Missouri, and my own overeducated daughters say, Dad, it's Missouri. And they point out that it's a short I at the end. I'm like, it's been Missouri for 61 years, and it'll keep being Missouri for me and Johnny Ashcroft.
There you go. There you go. So all around Southwest Missouri, folks, it's 417-200-3500. You can call Barry, text that word visit today, call them tomorrow, 417-200-3500. As Barry and I this Sunday, we're talking about this really historic wave of workers going into retirement and increasing the demand for the services that Barry Watts provides, as he's mentioned. We've talked about how this will impact individual retirees, Barry. Now let's move to talk about how it affects the overall economy. Those leaving the workforce, whether there are more workers in the workforce or if this means fewer. Which industries do you think, Barry, would be most affected by this trend that's going on right now?
Well, Ralph, there's no question we're seeing fewer people in the workforce. And, COVID seemed to train people that they didn't have to work. I don't quite get that. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. But for example, I was in a conversation with the folks over at KY3, and they were telling me how hard it is to get people to man the news desk and run the news at KY3 in your old industry. And so you could probably get a job back there again, Ralph, if you wanted one, but I know you're retired and you don't want to do that. So they were just telling me how, used to you couldn't come right out of journalism school and walk into a station like KY3. And today they're kind of begging for people who just got freshly out of journalism school to come to KY3. So that was astonishing. Here's what we know as people begin to retire. We know that 25% of the people who right now work in the areas of like repair and maintenance, in banking and insurance and real estate, and 25% of people who work for the government, and even people who work in the nonprofit sector working for churches and so forth, 25% of them are over age 55. So we have a massive retirement trend that is going to spill out on the country in the next 15 to 20 years. And what that means is you're going to be left to be taken care of by those kids who have their face buried in their phones and who don't have nearly as much experience as you would hope that they would. And I think that this is going to bring up a lot of problems in the future.
Well, yeah, you mentioned KY3, and that's pretty tempting to actually have somebody with 2 arms and 2 legs, not an AI thing going on there, walking into KY3 and working for a living. But I'm perfectly happy or just being with you Sunday morning on the TV. We're on KY3 and glad to just be doing that. And I hope that whether it's our radio show, Barry, or the TV show over there on KYTV3, hope it's very helpful and it's very gratifying to help people find their way to you. Yeah. What sort of problems come about, Barry, with so many workers leaving these very important industries you talked about?
Well, I think, Ralph, the big thing is intellectual drain. Brain drain has to do with who knows the most. So, and like in my own company, take for example, I've got 2 employees, Nola, who's been with me 26 years. And everybody who has ever been in our office knew and met Nola and loved Nola. Her husband, John, has worked for us for 25 years. And in that period of time, they've seen our company grow. There's 15 employees in the office today. They know what it was like when there was just 3 of us. They know what it was like when all 3 of us were the entire team to produce the paperwork. And Lord knows it's a paperwork intensive industry, and do all the trading and do everything that had to be done. And so instinctively, John and Nola, with such experience, they know a lot of things about a lot of things and how to do a lot of things and what Barry would do in this situation that my younger teammates who are 25 don't know, simply because they haven't lived as long. They haven't had as much experience. They just don't know. And that knowledge is what produces efficiency and speed and accuracy and getting things right for the first time. So I think one of the biggest things that's going to happen to us, Ralph, is when everybody starts retiring, is we're going to have an intellectual drain that's going to set us back on what we can expect in the services that we receive from the people we buy those services from.
Barry, on the big picture, we're getting into Q2 of the whole century here. As we get into Q2, anything else you want to say about we're having at the same time the pressure in these 2 different areas, the actual influx of new retirees into the system, and the brain drain, the one caused by the loss of all these seasoned workers and all their knowledge they have across these industries?
Well, obviously, new retirees, Ralph, are going to create demand for services that retirees consume, retirement services, like what our firm provides, healthcare services that everybody's going to need. And, this may seem kind of dumb or surprising, but even in this area, I've recently been hearing in Springfield about the need for more pickleball courts.
Right.
Because these retirees are wanting to play pickleball. One of our clients is retired, and he's like a national pickleball champion. And the community isn't prepared for the pickleball phenomenon. And so we don't have enough pickleball courts. People are having to stand in line and wait to get onto a pickleball court. And so there's that kind of stuff. But there's also pressure that it puts on all the industries, the manufacturing industries, the different places where people are retiring from. For example, in order to have new pickleball courts, you need dirt work. And if the guy who was an expert bulldozer and belly scraper operator retires and he's replaced by a 20-year-old who maybe isn't as efficient as the old guy was and doesn't know how water is going to drain and can't think about those kind of things, you see the problem that's created. Or if the surgeon who's done 5,000 procedures is replaced by the young surgeon who's done 50 procedures. Or how about nurses? I think that's an important one. I like to talk about nurses. Ralph, you had the chance just last week to have lunch with my nurse wife, Kelly, and she is a sweet, dandy girl. One of the things that's interesting about Kelly is she has worked with patients for 40 years, and instinctively, she knows things. And a straight-A student coming out of nursing school wouldn't necessarily know those things. Let me give you an example. I think this is kind of a cool story. So one day we're at church, and we see a man walk by, and Kelly pointed him out and called his name, and she said, "Barry, he's sick." She said, "He's got cancer." Well, okay, who are you?
Oh, my.
Thanks. I guess we don't need all those tests and machines down
on
at the
street
hospital if
diagnosis.
You can just call them out like that in the middle of church.
On the street diagnosis.
So this guy's son was a friend of ours, and he was actually our physician. So we see him. He was in our Sunday school class, too. We see him, and Kelly says, "Hey, what's wrong with your dad?" And he said, "Well, nothing that I know of." And she said, I saw him today. He's sick. Your dad is sick. Something's wrong. And he said, "Well, I know he's got a doctor's appointment next week. We'll find out." Well, guess what he was diagnosed with the next week? Cancer.
Boy.
So
Wow.
my point is, Kel's done that a lot. She'll see people out and she'll say, "See that guy's color? Something's not right." She does that because she's good at paying attention, but because she's got all those years in nursing. And so that's the brain drain. When that leaves and a perfectly perky, straight-A young nursing student takes over who hasn't seen that, well, then she can't deliver that service because she doesn't have the experience. And so I think that's one of the things that we're going to run into. And I think it's one of the reasons that people need to start today making all their plans and making their decisions so they can hopefully step around the long line of people who are needing help when help isn't as readily available anymore. And we'd love to help you make those decisions, financially speaking, at the Wealth Care Corporation.
Yes, indeed, Barry. Thank you for all that. And we're talking to you baby boomers on the show today. Barry's number, Gen X or baby boomer, or whatever age bracket you're in. I know, Barry, you've had some people come in almost in their 80s and kind of get started with you. But that number is 417-200-3500. It's 417-200-3500 all around the Ozarks. And Barry, time for a break on our show. We'll continue our conversation and also a conversation about annuities on the show today. This is Ralph Hipp along with Barry Watts. You're listening to Watts on Wealth, the radio show, and we've got more of it coming your way next.
Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his Retirement Toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his Retirement Income Planning booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's K-I-T, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, K-I-T, to 417-200-3500.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in Watts on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
Are you worried about where your money will go in retirement? No need to worry. Barry Watts is here to help you plan for your retirement future. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to set up a meeting with Barry Watts to see what he can do for you. Again, that's text VISIT to 417-200-3500 today.
For years, annuities have gotten a bum rap. They cost too much. There's too many strings tied to that money. The money's locked up forever. We've heard a lot about the cons of annuities for years, but with private company pensions really dying out, the tide is turning. Annuity sales have been great in recent record years. Our market volatility is shining a light on annuities as something that might be something to consider, might be a really good idea. Barry, let's get back to it, and we're all about annuities in this middle part of the show. What do you think's behind the increased interest in annuities?
Well, Ralph, we're all about annuities. I'm not sure that's true. In this particular segment, perhaps we are. There are people who are all about annuities, meaning that's the only investment vehicle they have to recommend to anyone. And I think that's a mistake. That tells you you're dealing with the wrong person there. But the simple fact is there is an increased demand for annuities. And one of the reasons for that is because annuities provide security and guarantees of principal and income. So you can, when you put money into an annuity, if it's the proper type of annuity, you can know that the worst thing that'll happen is you're going to get all your principal back. And then if you build the annuity correctly, you can know that that annuity is going to guarantee you a certain amount of income at some point in the future, kind of like creating your own pension plan. So security and guarantees are what people are looking for, but also emotional security so that you don't have to be afraid. I was going through a little exercise with a client last week, and I took how much money they had and wrote it at the top of the board. And I put 0 at the bottom of the board, put my pen up at the top of the board, and I said, okay, I'm going to drop my pen down this board, and you're losing money here. You tell me when you want me to stop. And the woman looked at me and she said, don't even get started, because she didn't want to lose anything. So emotionally, she couldn't bear loss. And the good part about annuities is they don't always, if it's a proper annuity, it can buffer you from any type of market fluctuation. Now, recently interest rates have risen. In fact, they've peaked out, probably headed back down the other side. And what that means is right now, if you want to turn an annuity into monthly income, you can get more monthly income out of an annuity now than at any time in probably the past 20 years or so. So annuities work for that right now, but I think that window is closing as interest rates begin to drop again. And then the other reason that people are buying more annuities than they ever have is because annuities are being really aggressively marketed by annuity companies and by insurance agents. And what I want you to think about there is if you're buying an annuity, it needs to be a part of an overall holistic plan. It needs to not be something that you just bought. You just buy insurance on your car, insurance on your house. Don't just buy an annuity. An annuity needs to fit and coordinate with all the other things going on in your retirement plan, and it's not appropriate for everyone. So some people buy them who I think shouldn't buy them, and there are people, even on the radio, who are selling annuities. Annuity, annuity, annuity. And what I want to say to them is sit down, shut up. There's a lot more to retirement planning than annuities, and annuities can be an important seasoning to your retirement plan, but they aren't the main driver in a retirement plan.
Most of us are pretty savvy about keeping an eye on the market, and we know about bonds and CDs and watch interest rates. Annuities isn't something that's right in our face, Barry, and that's one important reason we're talking about them today. And let's define what they are. One of the most confusing aspects about annuities is there's so many different kinds of them. Can you define them, go over the various kinds of annuities that are available and out there today?
Well, yes, I can. I'm not going to go over all the different kinds. I'm just going to share a couple of different examples. And the big point here is that if you have a preconceived notion about what an annuity is, and many people do, they'll come in and say, I don't want to talk about annuities because, and they'll tell me something. Well, what they know is about 3% of the 100% that is really the whole story of annuities. And all they know is this little piece of it. So annuities is a very broad and deep topic that can be greatly differential. Let me just tell you about a couple of different types of annuities. First of all, there are annuities you buy for income. And that's where you hand an amount of money to the insurance company. In exchange, the insurance company guarantees that they will send you a check every month for the rest of your life. That's an immediate income annuity. Then there are what I call investment annuities, where you're not anticipating any income out of this money necessarily. You're just using it as an investment account, and it happens to be you like the deal that the insurance company is talking about. And so you're investing in that case in an annuity hello, I can't even say it right. Do you ever get your tongue tangled on a Sunday morning, Ralph?
As long as the preachers don't. But
well, that happens too.
Yeah.
I've got some stories I could tell you there. I've sat through my share of sermons. So you got income annuities on one side, or you could have an annuity that is just for investment and growth on the other side. That's one choice. Now, the other dichotomy to look at, or this is actually a trichotomy, I guess we would say, is there are variable annuities, which are tied to the stock market. And what that means is when the market goes up, they go up. When the market goes down, they go down. Well, if you're looking for security and protection, why would you buy a variable annuity? That's a good question. Then there are what are called fixed annuities. They're just the opposite. They're a lot like CDs, meaning they're for a fixed period of time, 2, 3, 4 years. And they have a fixed rate of interest, 2, 3, 4%, whatever it happens to be. So that's a fixed annuity. And then there's a third annuity. It's almost a hybrid between those first two. It's called a fixed indexed annuity. And that's the one that I like to talk about mostly because I think those are the effective ones in doing what they need to. It's got some function of the variable annuity into it because it's tied to a stock market index. So you're going to get performance based on that index. But it guarantees that the worst you can do is get a 0% return and just get all your principal back. In that way, it functions kind of like a fixed annuity. So there are variable annuities, which are stock market related, fixed annuities, which are more like CDs, and there are fixed indexed annuities, which are kind of a blend between the two. And I will tell you, Ralph, in our practice, 99.9% of the time, when we use an annuity for a client, and we do use them sometimes, we use fixed indexed annuities.
all right. So you'll find out if that might be right for you or if some kind of annuity is not right for you and have that face-to-face conversation with J. Barry Watts, the main retirement wealth designer from the Wealth Care Corporation in Springfield. His number 417-200-3500. Barry, we've talked on the show a lot about protecting your principal. And if this may tie into that, the difference between what we call protected income, something like your pension or an annuity, and that maybe money, our non-guaranteed income when it comes to our retirement income stream.
Well, I think the question that you're asking simply points out the difference between money that the principal is guaranteed for and money for which it's not. Mm-hmm. Protected principal is an account that cannot lose your principal. You're guaranteed to get that money returned to you. And there are certain types of accounts with insurance companies that do that. There are also accounts with banks that do that. And we use those accounts as well. Then there are fluctuating investments like stocks and mutual funds. And over time, those have historically done better on average, but they climb the mountain high and they run way down the other side into the bottom of the valley. And the older we get, the less mountaintop and valley we can tolerate. We're just kind of looking for a smoother ride. So then we talk about protected income. Well, protected income, as opposed to protected principal, protected income is a check that you can't outlive. And that generally comes from an insurance company. And that is technically kind of the purest, oldest definition of the word annuity. Really, Social Security is an annuity. It comes every month. Teachers, we used to say teachers have a teacher's annuity because they got a pension check every month. That was technically the definition of an annuity then. The definition has been broadened out. I think of the definition of an annuity as simply being an account at an insurance company is the way I express that. So just like you have an account at the bank, you have an account at an insurance company. But non-protected income, we talked about what protected income is. Non-protected income is that which is dependent on investments that fluctuate in value, mountaintop and valley again. And so if you're committed to receiving all your income from that, so you get maximum return, it's fine until it's not. And when the markets go down 20 or 30% and you take another 4% out of your account that year, now you're down. If the market was down 30% and you took out 4%, at the end of the year, you're down 34%. Boy, that's a deep hole to have to dig your way out of. So It's a better idea to have an income distribution plan built for you that shows where you're getting income every year. And some of it will come from protected principal. Some might be coming from an annuity even. But some of it will come from your stock market kind of investments, and some of it will come from your income kind of investments that are paying dividends or interest, bonds, for example. So we build income plans based on all of those different kind of accounts to give you the highest likelihood of having the income that you need every year between now and the time you turn 100 years old. I call it a lifetime income plan.
What are the mountains and the valleys if we rely on that maybe money instead of something more predictable like an annuity, Barry?
Well, I think loss of principal is the biggest one that could be a problem. The goose that laid the golden egg is dead. And so I have known people who were making withdrawals out of their account and they had some kind of super investment in it that had done so well that everybody's all jazzed up about. And then one day that thing went sideways. And suddenly the next month, the check doesn't come. So I think loss of principal is a big one. Another one is loss of buying power. Because, if you have so much money per month coming in and inflation runs at 7, 8, 9% like it has in recent years, or even at the 3% level where it's at today, every 3 years it costs you 10% more to live. That means between the time you retire and the time you die, it's going to cost you about 35 or 40% more to just buy the same goods and services. So you got to have a way to keep giving yourself a pay raise even though you're retired. And that's what retirement income planning can do for you. So I would just encourage you, anytime somebody says, well, here's the perfect thing, just put this all in an annuity and everything's going to be fine, you don't have to worry about it. I undo those things every day of the week because people come to me and they say, this isn't working quite like I thought it was going to. And this is not doing for me what I wanted it to. Well, why do you have it? Well, my buddy, my friend, he has these and he said this would be a good thing. And so I bought, okay, what does your buddy do? Well, he's an insurance guy down on the street corner. Okay, that's fine. What kind of insurance does he sell? Well, I got my house with him. I got my cars with him. He sells life insurance. Everything you need insurance, you can do. Probably not the right guy to be planning your retirement because that's not their specialty. Just yesterday, I was on the phone with my insurance guy because I need insurance on my office building. So everybody's got their specialty. We use them in their specialty, but we don't use them in the area where they aren't specialists. That's the point.
So Barry is the specialist on the other part of it there, the annuities and, your life insurance, home insurance. That's one thing, and this is totally another. Hey, since we're into football season, Barry, if our show were a football game, we're already at halftime here. We're halfway through this Sunday's Watts on Wealth radio show. Stick around. We've got a lot more about annuities to talk about. And Barry's number to get your conversation started, your one-on-one with Mr. Watts, 417-200-3500. This is Ralph Hipp with J. Barry Watts. You don't mind if I throw in the J once in a while, do you, Barry?
Oh, whatever makes you feel good. My mama.
I'm all about it. Makes you sound impressive, more impressive than you already are. Ralph Hipp with J. Barry Watts, Watts on Wealth, the radio show, and we'll take a halftime break. Be back with more right after this.
Taxes. Can't live with them. Can't live without them. But if you're looking for someone to help you pay as little taxes in retirement as possible, just give Barry Watts a call at the Wealth Care Corporation at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500 to see what Barry Watts can do for you. Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his Retirement Toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his Retirement Income Planning Booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's K-I-T, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, K-I-T, to 417-200-3500.
Well, that was awesome. Hope you had a good halftime break there, and back with part 3 of our program today as Barry and I are talking about annuities. Barry, is simply owning an annuity kind of what you talk about when you discuss a retirement income plan? We've talked about having the parts of it. Is that like an enormous part of it?
Well, Ralph, let me just ask you a question. When you talk about having dinner, does having cornmeal in the pantry, does that mean dinner? No,
No.
That might be an ingredient in one of the dishes that you have for dinner, but it's not the meal. And an annuity might be an ingredient in an overall holistic retirement plan, but it's not the whole plan. And so we use them for what they're for, which is to provide some stability and sometimes some regular income. But a holistic plan is going to cover a lot more than just annuities. It's got to deal with growth in your assets in order to offset inflation. It's got to deal with a lot of things that annuities just can't touch. Taxes have to be a part of a holistic retirement plan. Annuities, though they are tax deferred, are kind of a tax inefficient vehicle, and you have to be aware of that. You've got to know in your retirement plan how you're going to cover your long-term care and how you're going to manage your estate. So there's a lot to be dealt with there, and annuities can only solve a small part of that problem. So I had a client in this past week. It was kind of interesting. And I don't know, they've got $2 or $3 million and everything's kind of going to be fine. But we were doing some math for them, and we figured out that based on how they spend and how much money they've got and how their money is growing, and they were doing very, very well, we figured out that they're going to die in their around 100 with about $30 million.
Wow.
Now, that's a tax problem. And a lot of that's going to go to the tax man. And they were kind of pleased to see they were going to have $30 million. And what I said to them is, well, number one, that means you can spend more. So don't hold back. If you want to remodel a kitchen, this is your chance. But I also said to them, whatever amount we have left at age 100, we don't want to send that to Washington and let the knuckleheads have it. We want that to go to the kids. So we have some estate planning that has to be done. And a part of that, believe it or not, Ralph, is we're going to do some charitable gifting. Because did you know you can give more to your kids because you used charitable gifting than if you didn't use charitable gifting? That's kind of a weird way to think about it, but it's actually true. You see, everybody's got three beneficiaries. You've got the kids who are a beneficiary, and you've got the tax man that is a beneficiary, and then you've got charity that is a beneficiary. And you can actually disown one of the three. Of course, our recommendation is that you disown the tax man. And one of the ways we actually do that is by giving more to charity, which creates more money left because the tax man has been eliminated, more money left for the kids. Now, most of my clients say, I'm not really as worried about the kids. I want to leave them something, but that's not really the point. And most of my clients say, I want to be sure I have enough. So in this case, this client who's going to die with $30 million, they got enough. So my answer to them is spend some more. And I happen to know they're getting on a plane in 2 weeks, headed to Italy for a big, long vacation over there. And more power to them. That's what we call a successful retirement plan.
I believe you also have three parts you want to mention as the answer to this question in helping us find that sweet spot, that sliding scale, protecting our money and growing it in retirement.
The way we do that is we make sure people understand how things work, and then we ask them their preference for what they want based on how they understood it. You remember that story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears when we were kids?
Sure.
And as I remember, I think there were three bowls of porridge, and the first bowl of porridge was hot, too hot. And it was like the soup that my wife served me just last night. It was too hot.
Too hot.
And
gotta wait.
We had to wait. She thinks the gas stove's only got, it's like a toggle switch on and off. There's no subtlety in using just a little flame to heat it up, baby. She'll appreciate that. Send your cards and letters to Kelly Watts, Rogersville, Missouri. Anyway, so the one bowl of soup was too hot, and then the next bowl of soup was too cold, and then the next bowl of soup was just right. So people overreact a lot of times. They either want too much safety or not enough safety. And there's a just right point. And the way we achieve that is by explaining to them what they're giving up and what they're getting in every step of the process. And as we go, we say, now, how's that? Is that what you like, or do you want it adjusted? In the second step, how's that? Is that what you like, or do you want it adjusted? And so we build it based on their preference. We don't tell people what to do. We ask them what they want to do, and then we build a retirement plan that addresses what they said they needed.
And folks, say it with me. And the next part, this bed is too hard. This bed is too soft. And then this bed is just right. So they did after they had their soup and took a nap, so that part of it too. When we're considering an annuity, Barry, and you've talked about, in generality, some of the people who've met with you and have talked about annuities, annuity or putting our money in any other kind of retirement planning vehicle, talk about how important it is to get a second opinion, whether they've talked to somebody before. Now I want to talk to Barry, or they talk to you first and they go, well, let me talk to somebody else too.
I think it is important to get a second opinion, and the question is where you're getting your second opinion from.
Yeah.
Sometimes, well, in fact, we had this happen just a week or so ago. A lady she finally decided she wanted a second opinion. She loved everything we're doing, but she just wanted to check it out, and she's going to check it out with her son, the deputy sheriff. Well, now, I appreciate deputy sheriffs. Thank you for your service to our community. And thank you for the risk you take there. But I'm pretty sure her son, the deputy sheriff, probably doesn't know anything about retirement planning. So exactly what good is it going to do to check it out with him? And probably not very much. So you need to be sure you're checking it out with somebody who knows. People want to ask the guy that they work next to in the cubicle. That's not going to do it either. So actually at WealthCare, we do a lot of second opinion visits. People bring us their stuff and they'll lay it all down. They say, this is what we got. This is what my guy told me. Then this is what he addressed. This is what he didn't address. Can you tell us, is this all pointed in the right direction or not? And often what we wind up doing is confirming what people already kind of intuitively knew, which is that they bought some investments from an investment salesperson, but they don't really have a plan. Let me ask you a question. Do you have a plan? Or did you just buy some investments? You see, retirement plans include not only investments, but tax plans and long-term care planning and estate planning and strategies for protecting your principal. And they will even demonstrate what your income is going to be every year in retirement and what your taxes are going to be every year in retirement. A retirement plan should include all of those things. And if you don't have a retirement plan and you find that really all you did was bought some investments, well, then I've got a solution for you, and it is get a retirement plan, and I can tell you where to get one. You need to call us at the WealthCare Corporation because retirement planning is our specialty. It's what we do. And if you will just pick up the phone and dial 417-200-3500, 417-200-3500 and say, I want to get a retirement income plan like Barry talks about. Well, they'll schedule you a time for you and me to talk. Or since it's Sunday morning and there's nobody answering the phone there, you'd have to leave a message. If you just want to text the word visit, VISIT, visit to 417-200-3500, then we will have somebody call you tomorrow morning. They'll schedule a time for you to come sit and talk with us. And when you do come, let me tell you what to expect. Leave your checkbook at home. Don't bring your checkbook. You're not going to be writing any checks. You will need to bring some things, and we'll send you a list of what you need to bring. But we're just going to talk. We're going to visit. We're going to talk about you and your situation and what you're trying to accomplish. And at some point, we'll look at your money and look at your taxes and so forth and begin to kind of tie it all together. But what we really want is we want to know you. First and foremost, we want to know what you need to accomplish. And that all begins by having a visit with us at the WealthCare Corporation. Just text the word visit to 417-200-3500.
And they can also text something else, can't they, Barry, to get a special bonus?
They actually could, Ralph. I've written a book. The book is called What's on Wealth, the book. There is also What's on Wealth, the radio show. That's where we are right now. There's What's on Wealth, the TV show. You can pick that up on Sunday mornings on KY3. But What's on Wealth, the book, is actually available. And anybody who texts the word book to that same number, 417-200-3500, we'll actually mail out a signed copy of my book, What's on Wealth, the book. We're trying to help you the best we can. So we've got the TV show, the radio show, the book. We've even got a YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and type in What's on Wealth, you'll find a lot of videos that we've put up on YouTube that help people understand retirement, what it looks like, and how to make the next move that they need to.
Barry, we've got a little more chat about annuities here, and this is not your grandfather's annuity. Let's get back to that. Go back in time. How much has changed on annuities with the income tools we have today as compared to, let's say, when you started with the WealthCare Corporation? And there are more of them, and they're way different now than they used to be.
Well, I think a way to understand that, Ralph, is think about the automobile that we knew in the 1960s and the cars that we have today. There's just no comparison. I mean, they're just almost totally different creations. In the oldest days, a CD-type annuity was the prime annuity that you had. It was just another way to get interest from the insurance company instead of the bank. And then they made some innovations. They said, well, what if we attached it to the stock market? And then they said, well, what if we attached it to a stock market index, but not the market itself? And then we get a guarantee of principal. And then somebody said, well, what if we built an income rider? And somebody else said, well, what if we added long-term care provisions? So what annuities do today is day and night different from what annuities do when I started 31 years ago. They are a different creature, and they're not good. They're not the only thing to own. They're not bad. Oh, I should never own one. They're really fine medicine for people who need that particular medicine, as long as they get it in the right dosage. And our job at the Wealth Care Corporation is to make sure you only get the medicine you need, the annuity you need if you need it, and to make sure you get the dosage of the medicine you need, the right amount in that annuity. And annuities work really well for retired folks today.
All right. And you'll see if it works for you. Have that conversation with Barry as we depart our conversation about annuities. It's 417-200-3500 for the Wealth Care Corporation. You are indeed listening to What's on a Wealth, the radio show. Next up, Barry and I get to some of your mailbag questions. We love this part, and we'll get to that right after we come back from this.
Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his retirement toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his retirement income planning booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's K-I-T, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, K-I-T, to 417-200-3500.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in What's on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of What's on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of What's on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
Are you worried about where your money will go in retirement? No need to worry. Barry Watts is here to help you plan for your retirement future. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to set up a meeting with Barry Watts to see what he can do for you. Again, that's text VISIT to 417-200-3500 today.
On our TV show on KY3 and here on the radio, Barry really enjoys hearing from you in our mailbag part of the show. Great questions on the way. Some of the things you hear might even relate to your situation. So let's open up our What's on Wealth mailbag, kind of our email inbox these days. Go over some more common retirement questions if you're ready for it, Barry.
I'm ready and eager.
Ready and rocking and rolling. Here's our first one. I've been looking forward to retirement for years. Now that I'm less than 2 years away from my target retirement date, I'm starting to have panic set in a little. It's a big step, but is this normal, the panic? How do I know if I'm really ready for retirement?
Well, I think it is kind of normal. Depending on your personality. Some people are highly confident. It's not such a big issue. I have some very wealthy people who are not confident, and it's very difficult for them to retire because they're still afraid. And I want to recommend something to you, Ralph. Hopefully, if you got a pen and a piece of paper, pick it up right now, because there's something I want you to write down. I want you to write these words down. I want you to write, what I learned about retirement by falling off the boat dock.
What I learned about retirement
by falling off the boat dock.
Okay.
What I learned about retirement by falling off the boat dock. If you'll just put that in Google and punch return, it's going to bring up for you a YouTube video that I created on the topic of what I learned about retirement by falling off the boat dock, because I learned a whole lot. And it's kind of a humorous story, but it really does explain kind of the emotions and the feeling that you have as you're transitioning from work to the boat dock, or work to the retirement dock, we would say. And I think that'll be helpful. So Google what I learned about retirement by falling off the boat dock, and it'll take you to the What's on Wealth page in YouTube, and there's a video there that addresses this. So here's what I would say to people, Ralph. You are not ready to retire until you know your precise income every year in retirement, meaning you know how much you're going to need And you know how much you're going to have coming in from all of your different sources, including your investment accounts. I mean, I had a guy this week in the office who's 79 years old. And I said, well, it starts with your sitting on the porch number. How much income are you going to need? Well, I just don't know. I said, okay, well, how about this? I said, are you mostly living on your Social Security? Well, no. And I knew his Social Security was $3,700 a month because I'd seen his tax return. So I said, are you mostly living on that? No, it takes a little more beyond our Social Security to live. Okay, that's fine. So we circled back around later and I said, okay, I got to know what this number is, how much you're going to need. And we have about a 10-minute break and he figures and fiddles and figures and fiddles. And he comes up with, well, I need $2,000 a month. Now, think about this. He's making $3,700 a month. He told me it wasn't enough. He was having to take some out of his investments. But when I ask him how much he's going to need in retirement income, his sitting on a porch number, he says $2,000 a month. Do you see the disconnect? This guy didn't know. He couldn't do the math, and he was a professional. So you've got to know how much you're going to spend each month. You've got to know what your sources of income are precisely, in order for us to figure out how long your money will last and whether you have enough money to last you to age 100. So you aren't ready to retire until you know that. And we can help you figure that out, but I can't figure out what your monthly spending is. Your sitting on the porch number is something you have to come up with. Next thing you've got to be able to do is you've got to have a plan to deal with long-term care. That particular same man, he'd been in the insurance business. He said, oh, I got long-term care insurance. It's no problem. I said, that's fantastic. You've got insurance. I said, are they increasing your premium or reducing your benefits? He said, no, it's paid up. There's no increase to my premium. I don't pay any premiums. I said, okay, well, that's even better. And then he pauses and he says, but I don't have enough long-term care to take care of me. Well, okay, then he doesn't have a long-term care plan. He's got a part of a long-term care plan, and a part of a plan doesn't work. And then the other thing that I would say you need to focus on is, have you reduced your tax exposure to zero? Is it going to be even possible for you to reduce your tax exposure to zero? It is possible to do that. We can help people do that. We see people often do that, but you've got to dig into the taxes, know what they are, and know how to position your income. So until you've done those things, I think you're really not ready for retirement. So go watch the video, What I Learned About Retirement by Falling Off the Boat Dock. Figure out what your retirement income number needs to be, your sitting on the porch number. Come see us at the Wealthcare Corporation. We'll put it all together and bake you a good cake.
Yeah, you watch that video. I'm still curious about how the fellow's almost 80, but doesn't know as the famous sitting on the porch money number. You think when you're 80, you might know that already, but he figured it out, and you'll help him figure it out. Here's another good one, Barry. This really hits home, seeing our friend's family grapple with the aftermath of a severe car accident. The husband's recovery is uncertain right now. They're relying solely on the income of the wife. This prompted my wife and I to take stock of our own situation, seeing what they had. And also, Barry, this question harkens back to that concept of having 6 months of emergency income set aside for an emergency like this. So they're writing, we want to make sure that we're prepared for anything unexpected. What should we do first?
Well, I noticed in that question, Ralph, they're depending solely on the wife's income. So that means at a time when the husband is sick and perhaps needs the assistance of his wife to help him recover, she can't help him recover because she's putting in 40 hours each week down at the salt mine,
Exactly.
I mean, she's working, keeping the family afloat financially, but it's not keeping him afloat emotionally. It's not keeping them connected emotionally and spiritually. And it's not providing for some of the help that he needs maybe to be able to recover. So hopefully you've built a plan to accommodate all those things. And then what we do first, Ralph, after we get a plan built, then we put it under stress because we want to see where the plan is going to break. And let me tell you some of the stresses that we put a plan under. First thing we do when we get a plan all designed is we say, now what happens if we had a really bad stock market and we lost money 3 years in a row? What happens to your retirement income plan? Do you still have money to go all the way to 100, or did it start faltering and falling short? So we stress it that way, and we can do that because we have the historical data of the stock market. Another stress that we put on plans when we design them is what happens if one of the partners goes into long-term care. So if you go into long-term care at age 80 and you begin spending assets for long-term care, do you still have enough money for your spouse to live until they're 100 years old, or did they have to spend 90 to 100 working down at McDonald's because there wasn't any money left in the retirement account? So you stress it for long-term care costs. And then we stress it for death. We say, what happens if one spouse dies? Does the other spouse still have money to last till 100? Because, if one spouse dies, well, your income gets cut. That Social Security check may go away. One of the two Social Security checks you receive will go away. And so oftentimes, because your Social Security check went away, and oh, by the way, your tax bracket increased because single people pay taxes at a higher rate than married people do, well, then that person may find they fall short just because their spouse died. So you've got to stress test them, but you can't stress test what doesn't exist. So first, we have to build a plan. And then once we've built the plan, we'll stress test the plan and see if the plan still stands up to what it's got to stand up to, and does it still work? And then that's pretty solid. If we do that and it works, it's pretty solid, and we can rest with a sense of confidence in our retirement plan. And that's what we're trying to facilitate for people, is a sense of confidence.
Exactly. And to do that, it's 417-200-3500 for the Wealth Care Corporation at Highway 65 and Battlefield Road. 417-200-3500. Risk tolerance, the income retirement plan, putting it to the stress test, all those things he could potentially go over with you and your family. This person writes in, our oldest daughter, I guess, not to the marriage stage just yet. Our oldest daughter is looking at some college loans and asked us about co-signing for those. What are some things I might want to consider, Barry, before I sign on the dotted line for a college loan?
Well, Proverbs 11:15 says, whoever puts up security for a stranger will surely suffer, but whoever refuses to shake hands and pledge is safe. So what that means is anytime you co-sign for a loan, you're the one that's on the hook. So they're going to come after you because you're the one with the most assets, not your daughter. So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't sign the loan. It just means that you need to be wise. You need to be aware, eyes open about this daughter, her responsibility. Will she go ahead and complete her degree? Is she going to be employable when she gets done? Is she studying in an area where she'll be able to get a job? Or is she studying in one of the osophies, the philosophy? There's not a great demand job for philosophers today. So art history, not a great demand for art historians. But if she's studying chemistry or engineering or business or those kind of things where teaching, for example, nursing, where, there's a job for her the minute she gets out, then it's probably a pretty safe bet maybe to go ahead and co-sign her loan. So use your best judgment, but beware and be wise.
Great answers to some great questions, Barry. And I would mention on that book, What's on Wealth, do you have the information coming out of these real life questions that you could take those situations and maybe incorporate some of those scenarios into your book, Barry?
We actually wrote the book off of these questions. We didn't actually put the question in there, but the questions help us form how we structure the book. And so if you've got questions about retirement, it'd probably be helpful for you to get a copy of the book. All you need to do is just text the word book, BOOK, to our phone number, 417-200-3500, and we will mail you a copy of my book this week. 417-200-3500. Just text the word book, and a copy will show up in your mailbox.
Great. And it's free. And that first conference with Barry, it's complimentary. So get on it. You can text the word visit right now. As I'd mentioned, I love that other real life scenario. People may be listening to our radio show in the parking lot at church before they go in, before the first group comes out and second group comes in. So we love that. If you're listening to the radio, you can text that word visit right now. Text the word book, and Barry will get right with you. Barry, that'll do it for What's on Wealth, the radio show. And friends, hope you'll see Barry and me on TV and join us again next Sunday morning right here on the radio. So Barry, always a pleasure and a treasure to hear your wisdom, sir.
Great being with you, Ralph. I'll see you on the radio.
All right. And hope you'll join us next time for What's on Wealth.
Thank you for stopping by What's on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. And join us again next week for What's on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.